The boy pressed his back against the cold metal wall and tried to make himself smaller. His thin arms wrapped around his knees as he sat in the dark corner between two massive pipes. The pipes hummed with energy and made the floor vibrate under him. Sometimes they got so hot that steam would leak out and fill the narrow space with white clouds. Taman had been hiding in the maintenance levels of Nexus Station for 3 months now. He knew every pipe, every corner, every sound the station made. When the lights dimmed during night cycle, he would creep out to look for food scraps near the trash units. When the lights came back on, he would hide again. He was 16 years old but looked younger because he was too thin. His black hair was messy and dirty. There was a small scar behind his left ear where they had put the control chip. The chip was supposed to make him obey orders without thinking. But something had gone wrong. The chip never worked right on him. The mark on his forehead was what made everyone avoid him. It was a small blue triangle that showed he was a clone. Not just any clone, but a broken one, a failed experiment. The people who made him had written him off as waste. Taman pulled his knees closer to his chest. His stomach hurt from hunger again. He had found some old food packets yesterday, but they were almost empty. The water he collected from the condensation pipes tasted like metal, but it kept him alive. Heavy footsteps echoed through the corridor. Taman held his breath and stayed very still. The footsteps belonged to a Vrex trader. He could tell by the clicking sound their feet made on the metal floor. The Vrex looked like giant insects with hard shells and too many eyes. This one was carrying cargo containers. As it passed by Taman's hiding spot, one of the containers brushed against the wall. The Vrex stopped and looked around. Its compound eyes glittered in the dim light. Taman could see him clearly, but the Vrex looked right through him. After a moment, the alien continued walking. To the Vrex, Taman was just broken property. Not worth noticing. This happened all the time. Different aliens would walk through the maintenance areas. The beautiful Alari with their crystal-like skin would float past on their energy platforms. The huge Gorvan engineers would stomp through in their heavy work suits. Sometimes even other humans would come through to fix things. They all saw him, but none of them saw him as a person. Taman understood why. He had been made in a lab by the Hegemony Corporation. They grew clones like him to work in dangerous places where real people might get hurt. Mines on poisonous planets, deep space construction sites, war zones. But Taman was part of a bad batch. The scientists had tried to make the clones more efficient by removing emotions. They wanted workers who would never get scared or sad or angry. Workers who would just follow orders until they died. The process had failed. Taman and dozens of other clones had kept their feelings. They could still feel fear and loneliness and hope. This made them useless for the work they were designed to do, so the company had thrown them away. Taman remembered the day they brought him to the station. He had been in a transport container with 30 other failed clones. They were supposed to be sent to a recycling facility where their bodies would be broken down for parts. But something had gone wrong with the transport. Or maybe someone had made it go wrong. The container had been left on the loading dock for days. When it was finally opened, most of the clones inside were dead. Taman had survived by staying quiet and eating the emergency rations. When the container was opened, he had run. He had been running and hiding ever since. The worst part was not the hunger or the cold or the fear. The worst part was the loneliness. Taman had memories that were not his own. They came from the person whose DNA had been used to make him. He could remember things that had never happened to him. He remembered sitting at a dinner table with a family. He remembered the smell of soup cooking and the sound of laughter. He remembered someone calling him by a name with love in their voice. But these were ghost memories from someone else's life. Sometimes at night, Taman would whisper to himself in Korean. The language came naturally to him even though no one had taught it to him. It was built into his genes along with the memories. "I'm not broken," he would whisper in Korean. "I am not waste, I am a person." But saying it did not make it feel true. A new sound made him look up. Someone was coming down the corridor, but these footsteps were different. They were lighter and more careful. Human footsteps. Taemin pressed himself deeper into the shadows. Humans were the most dangerous because they might actually see him as a person. That meant they might try to help him, and helping stolen property was a crime. He did not want to get anyone in trouble. The footsteps stopped nearby. Taemin held his breath and waited. After a long moment, they continued walking. But something felt different. The person had paused for too long, like they had heard something. Taemin realized he had been crying again without noticing. The tears came so often now that he barely felt them anymore. But the sound of his quiet sobs echoed in the metal corridors. He wiped his face with his sleeve and tried to stop crying, but the tears kept coming. He was so tired of being alone, so tired of being nothing to everyone who saw him. The footsteps came back. This time they stopped right outside his hiding place. Taemin squeezed his eyes shut and tried to disappear into the wall. "I know someone is there," a voice said softly in Korean. Taemin's eyes flew open. The voice was gentle and kind, and it was speaking his language. "I am not going to hurt you," the voice continued in Korean. "I just want to help." Taemin did not move. He had heard promises like this before from people who wanted to turn him in for the reward money. But this person was speaking Korean like it was their native language. That was unusual on a station where most humans spoke standard galactic. "I heard you crying," the voice said. "I know you are scared, but you do not have to be alone anymore." The words made Taemin's chest feel tight. He wanted to believe them so badly, but believing in people only led to disappointment and pain. "My name is Dong-wook," the voice said. "I am Korean like you. I know what it feels like to be far from home." Taemin pressed his hand over his mouth to stop himself from making any sound. But the crying came anyway. It shook his whole body and made him gasp for air. The voice fell silent. Taemin waited for the footsteps to walk away like they always did. But they did not move. Instead, the man named Dong-wook began to speak again. But this time he was not talking to Taemin. He was talking to himself, telling a story about mountains and cherry blossoms and a place called Seoul. The words painted pictures in Taemin's mind. Pictures that felt like the ghost memories, but warmer somehow. More real. For the first time in 3 months, Taemin stopped feeling completely alone. Captain Lee Dong-wook stood quietly in the maintenance corridor, listening to the sound of muffled crying. He had come down here to avoid the crowds on the main station levels. The business meeting with the Vrex trader had gone badly, and he needed time to think. Dong-wook was a tall man with weathered hands and tired eyes. His black hair was starting to show gray at the temples. He wore the simple clothes of an independent trader, nothing fancy. His ship, Seoul's Pride, was docked, 3 levels up, loaded with medical supplies for the outer colonies. He had been a captain in the Korean Space Navy once. That was before the colony wars, before he lost his younger brother Minho in a battle that should never have happened. Now he smuggled medicine to places the big corporations ignored. It was not legal, but it was right. The crying sound came again, soft and heartbroken. Dong-wook followed it deeper into the maintenance area. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Steam hissed from the pipes around him. "Hello," he called out in Korean. "Is someone there?" The crying stopped immediately. Dong-wook could hear someone trying to be very quiet, trying to hold their breath. He had heard that kind of fear before during the war. It was the sound of someone who expected to be hurt. "I am not going to hurt you," Dong-wook said, still speaking Korean. "I just want to help." He waited, but there was no answer. Dong-wook sat down on the floor and leaned against the wall. He was not going to chase whoever was hiding. Fear made people run, and running in a space station could be dangerous. "My name is Dong-wook," he said to the empty corridor. "I am from Seoul, on Earth. Do you know Seoul?" Still no answer, but he could hear quiet breathing now. Someone was listening. Dong-wook began to talk about home. He told stories about the Han River and the mountains around Seoul. He talked about cherry blossoms in spring and snow in winter. He talked about his grandmother's cooking and the sound of temple bells in the morning. As he spoke, he heard movement in the shadows. Someone was coming closer. but trying to stay hidden. I had a younger brother, Dongwook continued. His name was Minho. He loved to climb trees and catch fireflies. He was always getting into trouble, but he had a good heart. The movement stopped. Dongwook could feel someone watching him from the darkness. Minho died 5 years ago, Dongwook said quietly. He was a soldier, like me. We were supposed to protect each other, but I failed him. I think about him every day. A small voice came from the shadows, speaking in broken Korean. Why are you telling me this? Dongwook felt his heart jump. The voice was young, maybe teenage, and it was speaking his language. Because you sound sad, Dongwook said, and because no one should be alone when they are sad. Slowly, a figure emerged from behind a large pipe. It was a boy, thin and dirty, with scared eyes. He stayed far away from Dongwook, ready to run, if needed. Dongwook saw the blue triangle mark on the boy's forehead and understood immediately. A clone, and from the way he was hiding, probably a runaway. What is your name? Dongwook asked gently. Tae-min, the boy whispered. But I'm not supposed to have a name, I'm supposed to be a number. Everyone deserves a name, Dongwook said. Tae-min is a good name, it means great and clever. Tae-min looked surprised. You know what it means? I know many things about Korean names, Dongwook said. My brother's name meant bright and strong. Names have power, they tell us who we are. Tae-min took a small step closer. Are you really from Seoul? I am. Would you like me to tell you more about it? For the next hour, Dongwook talked about Earth while Tae-min listened. He could see the boy's hunger for these stories. Tae-min asked questions about things he should not know about. Earth customs, Korean food, family traditions. How do you know these things? Dongwook asked. Tae-min touched the scar behind his ear. I have memories that are not mine. They come from the person they used to make me. Sometimes I dream about places I have never been. Dongwook felt a chill. He had heard about the cloning process, but seeing it up close was different. This boy had ghost memories of a life that was not his own. The memories feel real, Tae-min continued. I remember sitting at a table with a family. I remember someone teaching me to write Korean characters, but it never happened to me. Maybe it did happen, Dongwook said carefully. Maybe those memories are part of who you are now. The company said I was broken, Tae-min said. They said I felt too much. Real clones are not supposed to have feelings. The company was wrong, Dongwook said firmly. Feelings are what make us human. Without them, we are just machines. Tae-min stared at him. But I am not human. I am a clone. What makes someone human? Dongwook asked. Is it how they are born? Or is it how they think and feel and choose to live? Before Tae-min could answer, loud voices echoed from the corridor above. Both of them froze. The voices were speaking in Standard Galactic, and they sounded official. Security patrol, Dongwook whispered. Are they looking for you? Tae-min nodded, his face pale with fear. The company wants me back. There is a reward for finding escaped clones. The voices were getting closer. Dongwook could hear heavy footsteps and the beeping of scanners. They were doing a systematic search. This way, Dongwook said, standing up. I know another route. Why? Are you helping me? Tae-min asked. You could get in trouble. Dongwook looked at the boy's frightened face and saw his brother Minho. Not the same features, but the same young courage trying to hide behind fear. Because someone should have helped my brother when he needed it, Dongwook said. And because you remind me that some things are more important than following rules. They moved quickly through the maintenance tunnels, Dongwook leading and Tae-min following. The boy moved like a ghost, making no sound on the metal floors. 3 months of hiding had taught him to be invisible. As they climbed through a service shaft, Tae-min spoke quietly. The person whose memories I have. He was a soldier, like you. How do you know? I remember the uniform and the feeling of wanting to protect people. Is that why you helped me? Because of the soldier's memories? Dongwook paused in his climbing. No, he said. I help you because of who you are right now. The boy who has been alone for 3 months but still has hope. The boy who speaks Korean like poetry and asks about cherry blossoms. They reached a junction where several tunnels met. Dongwook stopped and looked at Taemin seriously. I am going to ask you something important, he said. Do you want to keep hiding, or do you want to try to find a real life? Taemin was quiet for a long moment. Below them they could hear the security patrol moving through the corridors. What kind of real life? Taemin asked. I do not know yet, Dongwook admitted. But I know it would be better than this. Taemin nodded slowly. I want to try. Then we need to get to my ship, Dongwook said. And we need to do it without being caught. As they continued through the tunnels, Dongwook wondered what he was getting himself into. Helping an escaped clone was a serious crime. But looking at Taemin, he could not bring himself to care about the law. Some things were more important than rules, and some people were worth the risk. They reached the Korean quarter 2 hours later, both of them exhausted from crawling through service tunnels and hiding from patrols. The Korean quarter was a small section of Nexus Station where human refugees had made their home. It was not fancy, but it was safe. Dongwook led Taemin to a small cafe owned by an old woman named Han Soo-jin. She was tough and smart, with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had survived the colony wars and built a new life on the station by trading information and favors. You brought me trouble, Soo-jin said when she saw them. She was cleaning glasses behind the counter, not even looking up. Hello to you too, Soo-jin, Dongwook said. We need help. I can see the clone mark from here, Soo-jin said. Do you know what happens to people who help escaped corporate property? Taemin stepped back toward the door, but Dongwook put a gentle hand on his shoulder. His name is Taemin, Dongwook said, and he is not property. Soo-jin finally looked up. She studied Taemin for a long moment. How old are you, boy? 16, Taemin said quietly. Maybe. I'm not sure exactly. Where did you come from? Taemin told her about the Hegemony Corporation and the failed cloning program. He explained how hundreds of clones had been made for dangerous work, but his batch had kept their emotions. The company had decided to destroy them rather than try to fix the problem. There was a doctor, Taemin said. Her name was Park So-ra. She worked at the facility. She could not stand to watch us being killed, so she helped some of us escape. Soo-jin's expression changed. Dr. Park So-ra? I knew her. She treated refugees here on the station sometimes. What happened to her? Dongwook asked. The company found out what she did, Soo-jin said grimly. They executed her for theft of corporate assets, made it public to scare other employees. Taemin's face went pale. She died because of us? She died because she chose to do what was right, Soo-jin said. That was her choice to make. She came around the counter and looked at Taemin more closely. You have ghost memories, do not you? I can see it in your eyes. Taemin nodded. From the genetic template, a soldier named Kim Jae-sung. He signed up for the cloning program to pay his family's debts. That program was supposed to be voluntary, Dongwook said. Soldiers would donate genetic material, and the company would make clones for dangerous missions. The original person was supposed to be compensated and left alone. But they lied, Soo-jin said. The company took more than just DNA. They copied memories, personalities, everything. The original soldiers do not even know their minds were stolen. Taemin sat down heavily in a chair. So I am not just a copy of his body. I am a copy of his mind too. No, Dongwook said firmly. You are yourself. The memories might come from him, but what you do with them is your choice. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red, and an announcement played in multiple languages. Attention all residents. Station security is conducting a mandatory search for stolen corporate property. All humans must report to designated areas for identity verification. Anyone harboring illegal clones will be prosecuted. Soo-jin cursed under her breath. They are not playing around. This is a full lockdown. How long do we have? Dongwook asked. Maybe an hour before they reach this sector, Soo-jin said. Less if someone reports you. Heavy footsteps thundered past the cafe window. A squad of Gorvan security troops marched by, led by a massive figure in black armor. Even through the window, they could see the cruel intelligence in his small eyes. "Thrax," Sujin whispered. "The station's chief enforcer. If he is leading the search personally, someone important wants the boy back." Taimin stood up. "I should go. I do not want to get you in trouble." "Sit down," Sujin said sharply. "Running will just get you caught faster." She went to the window and watched the security forces pass. "They are setting up checkpoints at every major intersection. Standard search pattern for a lockdown." "What about the service tunnels?" Dong-wook asked. "They will flood those with gas." "If they have to," Sujin said. "No, we need a different plan." She turned to Taimin. "Tell me about your abilities. What can you do that normal humans cannot?" Taimin looked confused. "I do not know. I am just a failed clone." "The company does not spend this much effort to recover failures," Sujin said. "What makes you special?" Taimin thought for a moment. "I am stronger than I look and faster. My reflexes are better than they should be. Sometimes I know things before they happen, like where someone is going to step or what they are going to say." "Enhanced genetics," Dong-wook said. "They were making super soldiers, not just workers." "That explains why they want you back," Sujin said. "You are valuable military property." "I am not property," Taimin said, his voice getting stronger. "I am a person." Sujin smiled for the first time since they had arrived. "Good. Hold on to that anger. You will need it." She went to a hidden panel in the wall and pulled out several identity cards. "Fake papers, not perfect, but they might work long enough to get you off the station." "What about passage?" Dong-wook asked. "My ship is in the docking bay, but it is probably being watched." "I have connections," Sujin said, "but it will cost you." "How much?" "Not money. A promise. This boy has abilities that could help a lot of people. If you take him away from here, you use those abilities for good. Not for profit, not for power, for helping people who cannot help themselves." Dong-wook looked at Taimin. "What do you think?" Taimin was quiet for a long moment. "The memories from Jae-sung, they show me what it means to be a soldier. Not just fighting, but protecting people who are weak or scared or alone." "And what do you want?" Sujin asked. "I want to choose," Taimin said. "For 16 years of my life, other people decided what I should be, what I should do, how I should think. I want to make my own choices." "Even if those choices are dangerous?" Dong-wook asked. "Especially then," Taimin said, "because that is what makes them mine." The building shook as another security patrol passed by. This one was closer, and they could hear scanners beeping as the troops checked each building. "Decision time," Sujin said. "They will be here in 20 minutes. Dong-wook stood up. "We go, but not to my ship. That is too obvious." "Where then?" Sujin asked. "The old maintenance bays, Section C7. There are abandoned ships there that still have working engines." "Stealing a ship is a capital crime," Sujin warned. "So is harboring a clone," Dong-wook replied. "We are already criminals." Taimin looked at both of them. These people barely knew him, but they were willing to risk everything to help him. He thought about Dr. Park Sora, who had died trying to save clones like him. He thought about the ghost memories of Jae-sung and the soldiers' dedication to protecting others. "I do not want to run anymore," Taimin said, "but I do not want to surrender either." "What do you want to do?" Dong-wook asked. Taimin straightened his shoulders. "I want to go home. Not to the place where my body was made, but to the place where I can be the person I choose to be." Sujin nodded approvingly. "Then we better get moving. Home is not going to come to us." As they prepared to leave, Taimin realized something important had changed. For the first time in his life, he was not just running away from something. He was running toward something, toward a future he would choose for himself. The sound of boots on metal was getting closer, but Taimin was no longer afraid. He had people who believed in him now, people who saw him as more than just property or a failed experiment. For the first time since he was created, Taimin felt like he might actually make it home. The maintenance bay was dark and filled with the skeletons of old ships. Some had been stripped for parts, others were just abandoned when their owners could not pay the docking fees. The air smelled like rust and engine oil. Dong-wook, Tai-min, and Su-jin moved carefully between the dead ships. Their footsteps echoed in the vast space despite their efforts to be quiet. Somewhere in the distance, they could hear the security teams starting their search of the lower levels. There, Su-jin pointed to a small transport ship near the back of the bay. The Star Runner. The owner died last month, but the ship is still functional. As they approached the ship, Tai-min suddenly stopped. "Someone is coming," he whispered, the UA. Others froze. They could not hear anything, but they had learned to trust Tai-min's enhanced senses. A few seconds later, they heard the sound of boots on metal walkways. "How many?" Dong-wook asked quietly. Tai-min closed his eyes and listened. 6, maybe 7. They are trying to be quiet, but their equipment is heavy. They crouched behind a pile of scrap metal. Through the gaps, they could see lights moving in the darkness. The security team was using scanners, searching methodically through each abandoned ship. "They will find us," Su-jin said. "We need a distraction." "I can create one," Tai-min said. "I am fast enough to lead them away." "No," Dong-wook said firmly. "We stay together." But Tai-min was already moving. Before either of them could stop him, he sprinted toward the other side of the bay. He ran silently like a shadow, but he made sure to knock over a piece of equipment as he passed. The crash echoed through the bay. Immediately, the security light swung toward the sound. "Over there," a voice shouted in Standard Galactic. "Movement, in Section 7. Most of the security team rushed toward the noise. Tai-min led them on a chase through the maze of abandoned ships, always staying just ahead of their lights. "Now," Su-jin hissed. She and Dong-wook ran to the Star Runner. Su-jin pulled out a small device and connected it to the ship's access panel. The door hissed open. "Where did you get that?" Dong-wook asked. "I told you I trade in information," Su-jin said. "Sometimes I also trade in other things." They climbed into the ship. It was small but well maintained. The previous owner had been a careful person who took good care of his vessel. "Can you fly this?" Su-jin asked. "I can fly anything that has engines," Dong-wook said. He settled into the pilot's seat and began running through the startup sequence. Outside, they could hear the security team spreading out through the bay. Tai-min was still leading them in circles, but he would not be able to do it much longer. "There," Su-jin pointed out the window. "He is coming back." Tai-min appeared at the edge of the light, running toward the ship. But behind him, the security team was closing in. The lead figure was Thrax, the massive Gorvan enforcer. Even at a distance, they could see the cruel satisfaction on his face. "He is not going to make it," Dong-wook said. The ship's engines were warming up, but they needed another minute before they could take off. Tai-min was still 50 meters away when Thrax raised his weapon. "Stop running, clone," Thrax shouted. "You only make this harder on yourself." Tai-min stumbled and fell. For a moment, it looked like he was injured. But then Dong-wook realized what the boy was doing. Tai-min had noticed something the security team had missed. There was an old crane, above them, used for moving heavy ship parts. Its support cables were old and frayed. As Tai-min fell, he grabbed a piece of debris and threw it at the crane's control panel. The crane lurched and began to fall. Thrax and his team scattered as tons of metal crashed down between them and the ship. Tai-min rolled to his feet and sprinted the last few meters to the Star Runner. He dove through the open door just as Dong-wook fired the engines. "Hold on," Dong-wook shouted. The ship lifted off the bay floor. Thrax, trapped behind the fallen crane, roared with anger and fired his weapon at them. The energy blasts struck the ship's hull but did not penetrate. "Shields are holding," Su-jin reported from the co-pilot's seat. But not for long. More security ships were launching from other parts of the station. Dong-wook could see them on the scanner, moving to intercept the Star Runner. "Can we reach the jump point?" Tai-min asked. "Not with all of them chasing us," Dong-wook said. "We need help." Su-jin was already working on her communication system. "I am calling in some favors," she said. "You have friends with ships?" Dong-wook asked. Better than that, Sujin said. I have friends with consciences. She opened a channel to the Korean quarter. Grandmother Yoon, this is Sujin. We need the community. An old woman's voice came through the speaker. We are already moving, child. Half the quarter is creating distractions. The other half is jamming their communications. Through the window, they could see explosions and flashing lights on the station. The Korean refugees were staging protests, setting off fireworks and generally causing chaos. The security forces were being pulled in multiple directions. The outer ring is clear, Grandmother Yoon reported. Take the mining route to the asteroid belt. We will cover your escape. Dongwook changed course, heading for the less traveled shipping lanes. Behind them, the security ships were falling back as they received new orders to deal with the riots on the station. They are letting us go, Taemin said, surprised. For now, Sujin said, but they will keep looking. Hegemony Corporation does not give up easily. As they flew deeper into space, Taemin sat quietly in the back of the ship. He was thinking about what had happened. Dozens of people had risked their safety to help him escape. People who barely knew him had put themselves in danger because they believed he deserved freedom. Why did they help me? He asked finally. Sujin turned in her seat. Because you showed them something they had forgotten. What? That being human is not about where you come from, she said. It is about what you choose to do. Dongwook checked their course. They were heading toward the outer colonies, far from the major shipping lanes. It would be a long journey, but they would be safe. Where are we going? Taemin asked. New Jeju, Dongwook said. It is a Korean colony world. Small but independent. The kind of place where people do not ask too many questions about your past. Will I be safe there? Safer than anywhere else, Sujin said. The colonists are mostly refugees like us. They understand what it means to start over. Taemin looked out the window at the stars. For the first time, he was not running from something. He was flying toward something, toward a future he could choose for himself. What will I do there, he asked. Whatever you want, Dongwook said. That is the point of freedom. You get to decide who you want to be. Taemin thought about the ghost memories from Jaesung, the soldier's desire to protect others, the family dinners he had never experienced, the sense of belonging he had never felt. I want to help people, he said. Like you helped me, like the people on the station helped me. Then that is what you will do, Sujin said. New Jeju can always use more protectors. As the Star Runner flew through space, Taemin felt something he had never experienced before. He felt hope, not just for survival, but for a real life, a life where he could choose to be the person he wanted to be. Behind them, Nexus Station grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light among the stars. Ahead of them lay the unknown, but Taemin was no longer afraid of the unknown. He was ready to discover who he could become when he was finally free to choose. The journey to New Jeju took 6 days. During that time, Taemin learned many things about the ship and about himself. Dongwook taught him how to read star maps and calculate jump coordinates. Sujin showed him how to prepare real Korean food, instead of the nutrition packets he had survived on. But the most important thing he learned was what it felt like to be part of a family. On the 3rd day, Dongwook found Taemin sitting in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The boy looked troubled. What is wrong? Dongwook asked, sitting down beside him. I keep thinking about the other clones, Taemin said. The ones who did not escape. What happened to them? Dongwook was quiet for a moment. I do not know, he said honestly. Some were probably destroyed. Others might have been reprogrammed and sent to work sites. I got free because Dr. Park helped me, Taemin said. But she is dead because of what she did. How many people have to suffer because of me? Dr. Park made her own choice, Dongwook said. She decided that saving lives was worth the risk to her own life. That was not your fault. But if I had stayed, if I had not run, maybe she would still be alive. Dongwook turned to face him. If you had stayed, you would be dead or enslaved. Dr. Park died so that you could have the chance to live as a free person. Do not waste that gift by feeling guilty about it. Taemin nodded, but he still looked sad. I want to help the other clones somehow. When I am older. When I know more about the world. That is a good goal, Dongwook said. But first you need to learn how to live for yourself, how to be happy and free. You cannot save others if you do not know what freedom looks like. On the 5th day, they received a message from New Jeju. The colonists had heard about their situation from Sujin's contacts. They were prepared to welcome Taemin and help him start a new life. They want to know what name you want to use, Sujin said, reading from the message. Your clone designation, or something new. Taemin thought about it. I want to keep Taemin, he said. It is the first name anyone ever gave me with kindness. But I want a family name too. What family name? Dongwook asked. Taemin looked at him shyly. Could I use yours? Lee Taemin? Dongwook felt his throat tighten with emotion. You want to be my brother? If you will have me, Taemin said. I know I am not really your brother. But you are the first person who ever treated me like family. Blood does not make family, Dongwook said. Choice makes family. And I choose you as my little brother. They held a small ceremony right there on the ship. Sujin acted as witness while Dongwook formally adopted Taemin into his family. It was not legal in the eyes of the corporations or the Galactic Council, but it was real to them. Welcome to the Lee family, Taemin, Dongwook said. You are home now. When they finally reached New Jeju, Taemin pressed his face against the window to see his new world. The planet was mostly green, with large forests and clear rivers. Small cities dotted the landscape, connected by roads and bridges. It looks like the Korea from the ghost memories, Taemin whispered. The colonists wanted to recreate their homeland, Sujin explained. They brought seeds and animals from Earth. Even some of the architecture is traditional Korean style. The spaceport was small but busy. As they walked down the ramp of the Star Runner, Taemin saw his first real sunrise. The sky turned pink and gold, and birds sang in the trees nearby. Beautiful, is it not? Said a voice behind them. They turned to see an elderly man approaching. He wore simple farmer's clothes and had kind eyes. I am Park Min-soo, he said. The colony administrator. We have been expecting you. Taemin bowed politely. The way his ghost memories told him was proper. Thank you for welcoming me, sir. Min-soo smiled. No need for such formality, we are all family here. Come, let me show you around. They spent the day touring the colony. Taemin saw farms where families grew rice and vegetables. He saw schools, where children learned both modern subjects and traditional Korean culture. He saw workshops where artisans made beautiful things with their hands. Everyone they met was kind to him. No one stared at his clone markings or treated him like property. They welcomed him as Dongwook's little brother and asked about his interests and skills. What would you like to do here? Min-soo asked as they sat down for dinner at a communal hall. I want to help people, Taemin said. I want to make sure that families stay together and that children are safe. We could use someone with your abilities in our security force, Min-soo said. Not to fight wars, but to protect the colony. From dangers. Wild animals, equipment failures, natural disasters. I would like that, Taemin said. After dinner, Dongwook and Taemin walked through the colony's central square. Paper lanterns hung from the trees and families sat outside their homes enjoying the evening air. It really feels like the memories, Taemin said, like the Korea that Jae-sung remembered. Those memories are part of you now, Dongwook said, but the life you build here will be your own. They stopped at a small shrine where colonists left offerings for their ancestors. Taemin looked at the names carved in stone, people who had died far from home but were still remembered with love. I want to leave something for Dr. Park, Taemin said, and for the other clones who did not make it. He found a small stone and carefully carved Dr. Park's name into it. Then he added, for the brave ones who chose to be human. He placed it among the other offerings. She would be proud of you, Dongwook said. I hope so, Taemin said. I want to live in a way that honors her sacrifice. As they walked home to the small house that would be Taemin's first real home, the boy looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Nexus Station was still turning. The Hegemony Corporation was still making clones. Other people were still suffering. But here on New Jeju, under the light of paper lanterns and surrounded by the sound of families talking and children playing, Taemin felt something he had never experienced before. He felt like he belonged. Hyung, he said, using the Korean word for older brother. Thank you for bringing me home. Dongwook put his arm around Taemin's shoulders. Thank you for letting me be your brother, he said. I lost Minho, but I found you. That feels like a gift. They reached the small house that the colony had prepared for them. It had 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a living room with large windows that looked out over the rice fields. It was simple but comfortable. This is really mine? Taemin asked, touching the walls as if he could not believe they were real. This is really yours, Dongwook confirmed. Your room, your home, your life. That night, Taemin lay in his own bed for the first time in his life. The sheets were clean and soft. The pillow smelled like lavender. Outside his window, he could hear the sound of wind in the trees and water flowing in the irrigation channels. He thought about the maintenance tunnels of Nexus Station where he had hidden for 3 months. He thought about the cold metal floors and the fear that lived in his chest every day. That felt like another person's life now. In the morning, he was awakened by the sound of birds singing. Sunlight streamed through his window, warm and golden. For a moment, he forgot where he was and felt afraid. But then he remembered. He was home. Dongwook was already in the kitchen, making breakfast. The smell of rice and soup filled the house. Good morning, little brother, Dongwook said. How did you sleep? Like I was safe, Taemin said. It was the first time in his life he could say those words and mean them. After breakfast, Minsu came to take Taemin to meet the other young people in the colony. There were teenagers from many different backgrounds. Earth refugees, children of miners, kids whose parents had fled various conflicts. We all came here for the same reason, said a girl named Kim Hyejin. We wanted a place where we could be ourselves without fear. What makes this place different? Taemin asked. Here we judge people by who they choose to be, said a boy named Lee Sung-ho. Not where they came from or how they were born. Taemin spent the day learning about colony life. He helped in the gardens, learning how to grow real food instead of just surviving on scraps. He practiced with the security team, using his enhanced abilities to help solve problems rather than just to survive. Most importantly, he learned what it meant to be part of a community. People asked his opinion about things. They listened when he spoke. They included him in their plans and their jokes and their daily lives. 3 months later, Taemin stood in the same central square where he had left the offering for Dr. Park. But now he was wearing the uniform of the colony security force. He had grown taller and stronger, and his face had lost the haunted look of constant fear. A new group of refugees had arrived that day, including a family with a young boy who looked lost and scared. Taemin approached them carefully, remembering how frightening it could be to arrive in a new place. Hello, he said gently to the boy. My name is Lee Taemin. Welcome to New Jeju. The boy looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. Are you going to send us away? No, Taemin said, kneeling down to the boy's level. You are safe here. We all came from somewhere else too. This is a place where people take care of each other. As he helped the new family settle in, Taemin realized that he had found his purpose. He was not just a failed clone anymore. He was not just property that had escaped. He was Lee Taemin, protector of New Jeju, big brother to anyone who needed family. That evening, he sat with Dongwook on their front porch watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. Do you ever miss it? Dongwook asked. The excitement of space travel? The adventure? Taemin thought about it seriously. Sometimes, he said, but not enough to leave. This is where I belong. And someday, when you are ready, we will go back out there, Dongwook said, to help other people find their way home, like Soo-jin and the people on Nexus Station helped you. I would like that, Taemin said, But for now I am happy to learn what home feels like. As the stars came out, Taemin no longer saw them as cold and distant. He saw them as pathways connecting all the places where people were building lives and families and hope. Somewhere out there, other lost children were looking for home. And when they found it, they would discover what Taemin had learned. That being human was not about how you were made, but about how you chose to live. That family was not about genetics, but about love. And that home was not a place you came from, but a place where people saw you as you truly were and loved you anyway. Lee Taemin was home at last, and he was ready to help others find their way home too.